Dignitas do a lot of preparation to get into game one. A big part of their preparation is their longtime coach, going all the way back to when EmilZy and friends were under the London conspiracy tag, Deathiance. He's a big part of what makes this team strong, and he has subbed in before, and he'll sub in again. Zero's unable to return. He's going to be replaced by the Mamana man himself. It's Deathiance. Put your Deathiance W's in chat if you got him. He's definitely a good guy.
So this... You know, oh, GG, Cringe Crew's got a sub, but if you recall, whenever it was their previous solo laner who got banned, what's his name? Can you help me out here? Tom, please don't do this to me now, man. Oh, you don't know either?
It's Zashu.
Thank you. God, come on. So when Zashu gets banned, Deathiance steps in, subs, and they go up against Panthera, and they win a game in that set.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
Deathiance steps. So this is not a guy, you know, this is not some coach who just like
nah, man, it's
can't play the game.
Deathiance
Deathiance is a really, really strong player, and Cringe Crew are by no means out of this.
Deathiance is definitely the coach for a reason. One, I think he prefers it that way. Deathiance does get a little bit nervous when it comes time to gameplay, but at the end of the day, he's a fantastic coach when it comes to just planning out the strategies and everything. So for Cringe Crew, we'll see how this one works out. Like we said, they have beaten Panthera. And we actually saw Deathiance, I think he soloed Dimmy on the Vamana. Don't quote me on that, he might have had help from the jungler, but I specifically remember getting very excited. Deathiance is one of my closer friends from the scene, so it's exciting to get to see him play, but we'll see how this one actually works out. Team Dignitas, they'll be battling against him and the rest of the crew with the Athena first pick.
Again, it worked last time. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Athena's so important to Cringe Crew. We've seen Repikas play it. We see EmilZy play it. It's such a high priority pick for them. So not only are you forwarding what you want to do, but you're taking away from what Cringe Crew wants to do.
One of my favorite ploys in picks and bans. Just, you know, I'll take it from you and give it to me. I like that little change around. Pick bans. Cringe Crew get to select 2 this time around. Same bans as far as last time is concerned. Ra and Terra take it away from Team Dignitas, and Fafnir Khepri take it away from Cringe Crew. Like we said before, we talked about the support ban, the weird Khepri ban, and when it comes to Ra has been a go-to ban, I think, now in general for a lot of the teams. But again, talk about gods that ShadowNightmare plays very well. Ra is certainly one of them.
Without a doubt. I mean, even when Ra was not in the meta, ShadowNightmare was still known to pull out the Ra and snipe some people with the Sun Chicken. So no surprise to get him banned away early on. Last time we saw Hunbatz and Erlong Shen picked there for Cringe Crew rather. This time with the solo lane change up with Deathiance in there instead of Zeros. Maybe Erlong's not as comfortable on that Erlong. Plus, I mean, Erlong kind of got crushed in that last game, realistically. So I like the early Jingwei pickup. Make sure that Suntouch doesn't get this god again.
I want the same draft from Dig.
You want to see Poseidon again?
Sure.
Maybe.
After the performance that ShadowNightmare had on it, I'd rather see something different, but the same idea, right? And the Jingwei traded out for the Rom, still the same idea. You got that late game carry coming out on the Rom. Give me a burst mid game mage.
Yeah, exactly.
What else fits that bill?
Kukulkan. Kukulkan is the one
which is something that ShadowNightmare's got in his pocket.
Exactly. ShadowNightmare loves playing Kukulkan. He plays it very well. You don't have to wait for the numbers before you use your ultimate, so that's always good. And it's just great. Again, it's taunt into a bunch of damage. Yep. And that's all you got to worry about if you're playing. Plus, if they want to really leave ShadowNightmare alone, like they did in that last game in the early game, you need a god that can clear well early, and Kukulkan definitely fits that bill.
One of the big differences about Poseidon to the Kukulkan is going to be the lack of the cripple, though.
That's true.
Not that ShadowNightmare used it very well, but still the idea is there.
I mean, it's still there. You aren't as worried about taking the taunt damage into the whirlwind as much as it is the whirlpool this time, but it's the same idea. A good early clear, we can leave him alone, and then big ultimate off the taunts.
And the whole idea, Poseidon recently got a boost thanks to that fantastic Gem of Isolation change, so that certainly isn't going to help out the selection. Second round of bans, you've got Raijin and Team Dignitas thinking about what to ban. It'll be the Geb.
Okay, don't want to give it to EmilZy. Did make it a little bit more difficult. Yep. We saw EmilZy get out of some sticky situations with that. Early Janus pick here for Cringe Crew. Not going to go for a knock sort of thing. They don't have the Erlong Shen set up. That's one of the reasons, I think, why we don't see that selected away instead of electing for the Janus. Instead, though, I mean, last game we saw how difficult it was for Cringe Crew to really pick a target and execute on it. Janus doesn't do that very well in the early game. You really need it's really like a split the fight and chaos kind of happens, which is kind of ironic because chaos loves to play Janus.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Love the Guan Yu ban, though.
Perfect.
Ducky,
That's what you need to do.
Ducky just looked way too strong on it. And then that's a target ban right there. The Ares does well up against the composition that Dignitas has drafted. All those gods get hurt by Cripple fairly significantly. And EmilZy's Ares, I mean, it's EmilZy's Ares.
What's left? I mean, they've banned out almost all of the support picks.
Yeah.
Cringe Crew.
Ymir,
Sobek.
Yeah, Sobek was going to be what I was going to suggest here. Sobek is really, really strong. Plus, EmilZy loves this god. Very, very comfortable on it. We saw Dardez bring out the Blink Sobek, but that was really trademarked by EmilZy.
That's EmilZy.
We'll have to see if he wants to pull it out here.
Dardez gets credit for his Blink Sobek.
I mean, that was nuts. That was really, really awesome.
Dardez is a strong player. He gets credit for his Blink Sobek. I think that there's the Kukulkan.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There it is. Got one right for once. It's about time.
You're really proud of yourself, and I'm proud of you for it as well.
I mean, I wasn't going to
Osiris
say
selection.
I was going to be like, told you so.
Yes, you were.
No, I was not.
Off mic, absolutely.
Oh, off mic, yeah.
As soon as the
but
game
they don't
ended,
have to know that.
As soon as we said, all right, and we'll see you tomorrow at hi-rez TV, you would hear, clear. So I chose the Kukulkan.
Nailed that Kukulkan pick, dude.
It's going to be Vamana, by the way.
Think so? Into Osiris?
Yeah, sure.
You kind of get shut down on that ultimate. You don't get the same healing effect from the big baby with that Lord of the Afterlife. Waiting to see what Deathiance is going to pick up here. Coming in last minute, Zero's unfortunately unable to connect. So it's going to be the Chaac. Just give him something that he can't lose lane with. That's the idea here, right? It's got to be.
I mean, that's in general what we've seen, but like I said, Deathiance does play solo. That's sort of his jam. So solo lane going to be the Chaac selection.
And I love the Wrath pickup here by Deathiance on this Chaac.
Yep.
They got abused in the jungle early on. They couldn't get any of their buffs. They couldn't contest Gold Furies, anything like that. So let's make sure that doesn't happen again. Get the Wrath on the Chaac, and we talked about it whenever in the last set. Chaac's Gold Fury congestion is great because he can silence you, he can knock you away, and then Wrath the Gold Fury. I like the decision. In fact, EmilZy's also going for the Wrath, and Ducky immediately decides, we'll let them get it. He's going for the teleport, and it's going to be BigManTingz with the shell.
You know, it's interesting. I love the way Dignitas plays a set. A lot of teams, and not a lot of teams do this. I'm not proposing that Dignitas are the only team that does this, but they're definitely one of the few teams that they play the entirety of the set. Dignitas invade full force level 1 or game number 1, expecting not to be able to do that in game number 2. So what happens here? Cringe Crew are forced pretty much to buy these 2 Wraths, almost because, you know, if they don't, then they get invaded, right? That's just how karma works. So Dignitas have no plans on invading. They had no plans on invading. They did not want to invade here, but because of what happened in game number 1, Cringe Crew have to respond. I love the way Dignitas play the big picture.
Exactly. They're just baiting you into getting suboptimal relics if you want to play the way you want to play. Yep. Now, if Cringe Crew take a page out of Dignitas' book and play the way Dignitas played, it's going to work in their favor because we saw what can happen when you have 2 Wraths and the other team has none. You're going to get bullied out of your buffs. You're going to lose your objectives. All that kind of stuff's going to happen. It's going to make life difficult for you. But if Cringe Crew play the way Cringe Crew want to play, these 2 Wraths are going to hurt them more than they're going to help them.
And so Dignitas just keeping the enemy uncomfortable. It's a big part of what Team Dignitas' game is about.
Yeah, I mean, they always pick some weird stuff. You never know what Suntouch and crew are going to pull out of the pocket. Yep. It could be, double Wrath, invade you, leave Poseidon alone till level 6 sort of composition, or it could be a much more traditional setup comp like they've got this time around. So they're not going to have the early lead, most likely, that we saw last time. I mean, even right now, you don't see ShadowNightmare with a massive lead in the mid lane, anything like that. So it's going to be much more who's going to team fight better. This is a team fight composition for Dignitas, and Cringe Crew's team fight is really solid. I mean, the Chaac is a pretty decent team fighter.
Yep.
Sobek is a good team fighter, but he's also can really facilitate the pick composition sort of idea. Cringe Crew can look to pick you off with through space and time and fear no evil if you're in the wrong spot, as well as plucking you out of position with EmilZy, or they can look to out team fight you. They've got a couple more options.
This is very much I'm more on the team fight side of Cringe Crew. I think they have a lot of options. when it comes to the team fight execution. For on the other side of Team Dignitas, however, like you said, this is isolate a player and blow him up with ShadowNightmare's ultimate. They do have a couple of other tools. Ducky on this Osiris, however, I think this is a great choice for him. He plays a lot of the Osiris, and he's very good at it too. So we'll see how he goes up against the substitute here, Deathiance.
Yeah, Osiris not a god that every solo laner likes to play. It's really more of a certain guys like to play it, but it's going to be really, it can be really, really potent overall. It can really make you have the really big lane bully presence and the team fight presence as well. With that tether is very, very potent. If you can get it in the right spot and be really strong, it's going to make Dignitas' team fight a lot easier.
All right, so FrostiaK here looking for the shot. Gets this nice stun against the Chaac, and that might be enough. Honestly, there's the ultimate. A lot of damage coming against the solo laner. Not enough to go ahead and get the kill.
Here's a through space and time. Now Ducky in a tough spot. No Lord of the Afterlife, fear no evil. Gonna confirm the kill. Repi gets the first blood. FrostiaK comes crashing down. Spirit of the Nine wins. Not on the mark. 2-for-0. Go Cringe Crew.
Oh man, that was kind of rough. And honestly, that's one of those situations where FrostiaK just has to say sorry, bud. And he's just got to get out of there. Unfortunately, trouble for him and his solo lane. 2 kills go the way of Cringe Crew.
Yeah, he expects the ultimate from ShadowNightmare is going to be there to help him out, but he needed to wait a little bit longer. ShadowNightmare only has boots 2, doesn't have that full-on movement speed quite yet, and wasn't able to get in position in time. Red buff stolen away by Cringe Crew, putting that Wrath to good effect early.
Needed to wait for the numbers there?
No, they had it.
ShadowNightmare just a little bit needed to
he was just too far. Yeah. And you don't have the movement speed buff on Slipstream quite yet. That's going to be coming in 3.21. Not the slipperiest noodle in the world, but the rotation overall from ShadowNightmare was solid. Just you got to try and keep up with Janus. And that's one of the things that, well, that was awkward. BigManTingz dashes into the portal there. Both mid camps going the way of Cringe Crew. Great wall coming out from FrostiaK. Forces the purification out of Kero, but that's going to be it. One of the things that Kukulkan can do really well up against Janus is the fact that, you know, Janus will use through space and time and get to wherever he wants to go, but Kukulkan can drop the NATO and then start to run. He can he can keep up a little bit more easily than other mid laners can with that great rotation ability from Janus.
So that's going to work out for now. Team Dignitas sitting down 0-2. They're going to have some troubles trying to climb their way out of this one. Decent lead for Cringe Crew so far.
I mean, getting 2 kills early onto Repikas. We saw how much he can do on this Hunvats whenever he's ahead. We'll have to see if he's able to transition that lead towards the later stages of the game. FrostiaK, again, really making a point of spending time in the solo lane. And it isn't just because Deathiance is there, because he did it with zeros there as well. This is a clear plan from Dignitas. Get Ducky ahead.
And just sort of focus on what he's able to do. FrostiaK now, well, he's standing on a ward, and there's going to be 2 players here. Just toss out the hammer.
I don't think he got any of those, so he's gonna,
I got none.
Yeah, the burst damage from Repi and EmilZy, enough to secure it. And that's the thing about Gremlins, is that you don't really contest them. You just get them. Whoever's there first, whoever's in the better positioning is going to get those 9 out of 10 times. And
I kind of like that. I think that's a fun change. FrostiaK here. Gonna head back to base and buy something new.
We actually talked, Hindu and I talked to Mast on our podcast this week, and we were talking about how he thinks that it'd be more fun if the fire elementals acted more like wards, where you needed to hit them with 3 auto attacks to really secure them, and how that would sort of change their impact on the game and how well they're contested.
It's interesting.
Could be interesting. Also interesting is Cringe Crew doing the Gold Fury again. Wrath available for EmilZy. FrostiaK comes crashing down, but it's too late. Gold Fury's already gone.
And that was very quick coming out of Cringe Crew. You see Ram just sort of firing off some celebratory fireworks.
Just poking him out, saying, hey man, don't do that again, please. I want the Gold Furies, please. Yeah,
Cringe Crew certainly looking to move this to a game 3. They've lost their solo laner for at least 1 game. If they do make it to a game 3, we'll see if Zeros is able to make it back in time, but it doesn't seem to bother them too much.
I mean, Deathiance has done a great job thus far. He's been holding his own up against Ducky in the solo lane. He's been camped a little bit by FrostiaK, but it was actually Cringe Crew was able to turn it around, and that's the danger of being predictable and where you're going to be in your ganks. The counter engage from Cringe Crew was perfect. They're able to pick up 2 kills in response, and instead of getting your solo laner ahead, all of a sudden your solo laner is significantly behind. Ducky has done a good job of keeping it even, only 200 gold down. In fact, he's looking really strong right now. Wrath used by Deathiance to try and buy him some time. Great ultimate to immune the Lord of the Afterlife for now, but it's not going to matter. Ducky picks up the solo kill.
And that's what I was going to say. Here comes Repikas, likely to find a kill as so many players have made the rotation. Kero able to put a period on that one as Ducky gets hit down. But I was going to say, we're talking about how well Deathiance has done 6 minutes into the game on a Chaac, right? I want to see how well he continues to do. I did mention that Deathiance had a strong game against Panthera once upon a time on Avamana when he had to step in for Cringe Crew. But, you know, we'll see how this one works out with him on the Chaac, if he's able to make the transition into the mid and late game, or if Dignitas will be able to take advantage of the substitute.
But that's the problem, is that if you're waiting to team, you know, if it's like how well can Chaac team fight, that's what we'll really see. Well, Chaac as a character doesn't team fight nearly as well as almost every other solo laner in the game, so you're already putting him at a loss in that sort of scenario just with the pick. In fact, you actually see he's going for the Xaylia style build. Looks like he's going to be going into a Transcendence second item. We usually see Xaylia pick up that Transcendence third after a defensive item.
I think third is the sweet spot.
But instead, Deathiance, I guess, just he's here to do damage, man. He's taking this top opportunity and he's going to try and run with it.
I mean, I respect it, honestly. You come in for, you know, one game.
Yo, this is like some Chapo stuff right here.
This is straight Chapo style, right? Just the early aggression. And FrostiaK looking for aggression of his own. Deathiance here might suffer his second death. FrostiaK too short, won't be able to find it.
Another ward, just pretty close to where Zeros was, sniffing out the Thor gank last game. Same ward, same result. FrostiaK not able to find the kill, but again, just making Deathiance uncomfortable in this solo lane. That's the big thing. The problem is that FrostiaK is continually falling further and further behind from Repikas. Repikas is farming very, very well right now.
And that's one of the problems is, one more time, Ducky just bringing it to the bank. Up top comes the ultimate. That's going to stop some of the healing, but Ducky not looking for the kill this time around. A little bit too high is Deathiance.
Exactly. The heals, and again, you're going to get more healing from when you build power from your 3 as Chaac. It does scale off of your damage, so there's a reason you could go for it. Good gank coming in from FrostiaK here on the left-hand side. We finally see some action on the duo lane. We didn't see any last game whatsoever. Fours out the ultimate from Shaggyshenk.
There's Repikas getting taunted just a little bit. He'll be able to just monkey away.
ShadowNightmare looks like he may be going for the Warlock Sash, or it could be the Gem of Isolation second item. Gem of Isolation not as core on Kukulkan as it is on Poseidon, but can be extremely potent, giving you extra mana and health. That mana synergizing very well with your passive. Kukulkan gains extra magical power based on his maximum mana. So with each stack, you do get a little bit of health and mana that can get you some extra power. It's just that Book of Thoth is so core on Kukulkan.
For sure.
You really expect that ShadowNightmare is going to be going for that. To go for Warlock Sash here means that it's going to be a long time before he gets that book stacked up, and book stacks on Kukulkan are much more important than on any other character because you're gaining much more than that 33 power that you get normally from those stacks because, again, you're gaining mana with your stacks.
Exactly.
So we'll have to see what ShadowNightmare wants to go for here.
In general, we'll see how it works out. Right now, Ducky just has dominance over this lane for the most part, I would say, but Deathiance unafraid to fight into it. Here on the other side of the map, however, BigManTingz certainly unafraid to fight into 3. Pluck going to be off the mark out of the EmilZy charge. And honestly, all for nothing.
So it looks like Deathiance has thought better of his idea for going Transcendence second and is starting to build into what is most likely going to be a breastplate. Could also be Hyde than Emi and Lion here. Hyde would do well up against Osiris, going to return that basic attack damage that Osiris really relies heavily on, but he could go for the cooldown as well.
There's a nice control on the Kero. He's able to find the positioning to the wall, but to the sky goes FrostiaK. He certainly wants something. Lands on 2. There's the setup. 1 gets hit with the ultimate out of ShadowNightmare. And there's a dash out of EmilZy directly in the portal where we see Ducky lying in wait. ShadowNightmare able to get 1 more tick off thanks to the tornado, and down will go the support. It's 3-2.
So unfortunate that EmilZy couldn't get to that second portal on that right-hand side on the mid-Harpies. Instead, great dunk in by FrostiaK. Hits 2, secures his own speed buff despite the 2 Wraths. for Cringe Crew, and then ShadowNightmare following up perfectly. That's why you draft Kukulkan with this composition, to hit the big ult off of the double stun from FrostiaK, times it perfectly.
And Dignitas still, I like the fact that they're keeping up their invade game. You see the 2 red buffs on the side of Team Dignitas. They were able to go ahead and strip away the opponents as well. So, you know, even without the Wrath available to them, able to go ahead and take some of their dominance that they've had in this duo lane and make it count.
A lot of this, I like the balance from this composition from Dignitas yet again. We talked about it a lot last game, where the mid-game trio between your mid, jungle, and support, and then the late-game potential out of both of your side lanes. This time it's more early game in your solo jungle mid. I mean, not early game necessarily, but mid game in those 3. And then you've got the late game potential out of the Rom and Kukulkan. Kukulkan in the late game is just going to one-shot you with Spear of the 9 Winds if you're in the wrong spot at the wrong time. And you can see the late game build is coming out of ShadowNightmare here. He did elect to go for that Warlock Sash. So we'll have to see if he wants to go into the book next. It's going to delay his penetration significantly, but it will give him a ton of damage.
And when it comes down to it, like you said, ShadowNightmare is looking to make the impact in the absolute late game, so certainly a thing. But I like Warlock Sash on the Kukulkan because of just how easily he clears the wave.
Exactly. That's another big reason why Kukulkan, you see a lot of Kukulkan players go for this double stacking build. Also the fact that guys like ShadowNightmare and EmilZy Stealth play him is a reason you see the double stack. And ShadowNightmare goes Warlock Sash on like everyone.
Yes.
I mean, he was going Warlock Sash on Scylla. He was going Warlock Sash on Raijin. I mean, those are not characters you see the health tank option usually picked up, but ShadowNightmare is a big fan of that.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're not really giving up much power by going Warlock Sash. You're just giving up time and how early you can be how early you can scare people, essentially.
So Deathiance thought better of himself thinking better and went for the Transcendence now. Finished that off. He's got just a little bit of physical protection. I believe that's, what, 10 physical protection on Breastplate?
20.
So 555 gold, if I'm not mistaken, for 20 physical protection. Could be worse. Not the worst thing in the world. He's going to get it anyways, right? So I guess it's not that big of a deal either way. He probably died with about 500 gold, 600 gold, not close enough to finish off Transcendence, but didn't want to get nothing from his back, so that's why you see character guys go things like, you know, tier 1 of an item and then wait to finish the end part of their last item.
You're really just trying to make this sound okay.
I mean, I'm not a fan. I'm really not, but I can understand why that happens. Did FrostiaK just take all of ShadowNightmare stacks off that mid lane?
Yes.
Okay, so Whirlwind full clears the wave. It full clears the wave at level 3 because you put 2 points into it. It's going to full clear. You don't need to use the hammer. It's a waste of mana, and it puts you in a vulnerable position, and you're taking stacks away from your mid laner, which is just outright mean.
But FrostiaK wants his last hits.
That's outright mean.
Especially with the Warlock Sash. You know, in general, one wave probably won't make or break the game, but there's 6 minions in a wave. If FrostiaK winds up doing this, you know, and I'm sure it's not malicious, right? He's not sitting there like trolling his mid lane or in an actual game that means something. But at the end of the day, you know, if that happens haphazardly 2 or 3 times, all of a sudden you're looking at a loss of 18, 12 stacks. That could actually have an impact.
It sure can. Looks like ShadowNightmare is not going to go for that double stacking build, possibly because his jungler keeps taking all his stacks. He's going to be going for penetration right away, and I like that option.
I think it's the right choice.
Yeah, I do as well. You can see the protection already coming out from multiple members of Cringe Crew. The Mark of the Vanguard does really, really well up against Kukulkan. All of those tornado stacks get their damage reduced by 5, which can be significant, as well as those tank boots, which is going to be stacked up by that by the Whirlwind. So EmilZy's not going to be nearly as vulnerable of a target as he was last game. In fact, the way that EmilZy's building is directly to counter the damage coming out of ShadowNightmare.
Right, and we'll see that spear come online likely as the 3rd item coming out for the mid laner. Team Dignitas going to start at the early golds here. Keep in mind they don't have a Wrath, but they do have the Spirit of the 9 Winds, which is an excellent choice. As soon as players from Cringe Crew show up, they're going to look for the fight. Dignitas, that is, dashing in to kind of taunt. Not going to find it. Half HP is the support, and that be that.
Exactly. They get the through space in time out from Kero. They poke EmilZy down to about half HP, and then they just go back to farming their lanes. This is Dignitas being a veteran team. They understand what they want to do here. They've got the opportunity to do Gold Furies quickly because you see that BigManTingz has picked up a Wrath, and to combat the Wraths coming out of Cringe Crew. Actually, hold that thought. Blink Initiation on the left-hand side. Suntouch force up into the sky, very low, looking to put out a little bit of damage, but doesn't get knocked up as soon as he comes down. Sanctuary buys him a bit of time, and here comes the rotation from the rest of Dignitas.
FrostiaK shows up as well, but it's more defensive than offensive in all honesty. He doesn't find a target, but I think that's okay. I don't think Dignitas were really looking to really take this fight specifically.
Suntouch dashing in aggressively there actually saved his purification. I don't think he knew that Repikas was coming off the backside there, is what I meant to say, with the blink, but instead dashes forward, immunes the Fear No Evil.
25% on the objective. Here comes everybody else. Gold Fury goes down, and it's Cringe Crews. Looking for the fight is going to be Team Dignitas. Cringe Crew have the 2,000 gold lead right now, and Ducky's going to try and shorten that up, just taking down Repikas.
That's what Osiris does, man. You can't get away from him. He slows you, he speeds himself up with the 2, and then you're not doing any damage to him because of the Judgment Tether. But Gold Fury does go the way of Cringe Crew. No, the Wrath from BigManTingz was not used. He wasn't able to get in to try and contest that, but a tier 1 tower, this is Smite. You take our Gold Fury, we get a kill, and then we take your mid tower. This means that Kero is not going to be quite as safe, but I love the decision from Shaggyshenk to continue to push this left-hand side. He's not worried about that mid lane tower. He's more worried about this tier 2 tower on the left-hand side.
Suntouch looking for the wraparound, wants to get tied up by Shaggyshenk. There's a nice taunt. Shaggyshenk is able to find a way over the wall, but Sunny's going to dash towards him. Still looking for the kill. There's a nice shot through the wall. A couple of slows coming out as well. Suntouch has the ultimate available. Looking for the kill. 1 shot is good. 2 shot is going to be on the mark, but immune. And the 3rd shot coming out offwards and not online. Shaggyshenk gets away, but Ducky from the right side says, no way, teamwork counts. And there's kill number 4 for Dig.
So I mentioned that Shaggy was too worried. He was worried about the tier 2 tower on the left-hand side. He should have only been worried about the tier 1. Taking that extra wave forces him to use the ultimate. He has to go over the wall, but Suntouch does a great job of chasing him out, forcing the Sanctuary, and it's an easy cleanup for Ducky. Ducky sitting at 3 and 2, doubling anyone else's damage in the game right now. 10,000 damage already on this solo lane Osiris.
And Ducky, a lot of that is, it's all relevant damage for the most part. A lot of the conversation about solo laners is and Vulcan, is how much of their damage is relevant, right? Hey, look, all this damage is on these solo laners, but it's because they've been beating each other in the face and then backing and teleporting back, and nobody really cares about it. But Ducky has absolutely 10,744 player damage. I'd say 10,700 of that has been actual, like, real damage. It's just he hasn't really been making this back and forth with Deathiance. He's killed Deathiance.
He has killed Deathiance. He's been the one who's gotten the solo kill onto him, but it actually looked like Dignitas was going to start up the Fire Giant there. Through space and time, Kero uses it to make sure that they're not going to be going for this late game objective early on in this game.
Yeah, 19 minutes. And here comes the rest of Team Dignitas into the solo lane. Not so solo anymore, as there's almost 5 players in different uniforms here. Suntouch going to see Repikas make a move for the tower, so he'll just show up and chase them out by presence alone.
I like the fact that Shaggy's the one hanging around the rest of the team right now, playing that sort of jungler roaming role while allowing Repikas to get some farm by himself in this lane. Put Repikas ahead of FrostiaK even more than he already is, sitting up about 1,000 gold, a level right now. In fact, actually, FrostiaK just catches up in levels, level 16, both junglers right now, but getting Repi that solo farm, allowing him to keep getting those big impact items. In fact, just finishing Titan's Bane, this is a big power spike for Cringe Crew.
And this is where they're going to look. The Titan's Bane is not only a power spike as far as team fights is concerned, but should also help against a tower. Hunbat's not exactly adept at taking towers, but not exactly a slouch either. That Titan's Bane sort of inches him in the correct direction and will help him out certainly when it comes time to siege.
Just tons of power and tons of pen coming out of Repikas right now, and I like the idea. You really want to bolster that damage in a composition like Cringe Crew have. We mentioned it earlier that Kero on this Janus, Janus isn't your Kukulkan, he's not your Poseidon, he's not your big burst mage most of the game, so you need your jungler to kind of pick up some of that slack, and Repikas is building to do just that.
And here's trouble for Osiris, who's able to jump away and make sure it's not that much trouble.
Perfectly timed ultimate there from Ducky. A little bit unfortunate from Cringe Crew. They thought they timed the knock up into the Fear No Evil correctly, but Ducky able to get out of dodge just barely.
Yeah, not too much of a problem. Ducky looking pretty damn good on this Osiris, in all honesty. Just not having a problem with pretty much anything despite the 2 deaths. He's been able to really have an impact and look pretty strong.
Now Ducky caught out by himself, takes a good amount of poke. Unfortunate there, FrostiaK actually landed onto the trampoline from Jing Wei. Immediately got knocked up upon landing. So now Cringe Crew able to push down this tier 1 tower in the middle lane.
Well, they're going to try to, but Dignitas plays good defense and just looks at Deathiance and shuts him down. Suntouch rolls forward, so is BigManTingz looking for a target. Sunny gets hit by 1 ultimate, but wants to use one of his own. EmilZy gets hit by 2 shots and looking for the cleanup as FrostiaK. Not going to happen, however. Ducky and the rest of Team Dignitas look like they want to make the push, but nobody's ready to make the decision.
Not quite yet, but Gold Fury is up in the less than 10 seconds. ShadowNightmare still has that Spirit of the 9 wins, and the Wrath is still available for BigManTingz. It's going to be difficult for Cringe Crew to contend with. They do have to be worried, though. Dignitas, they don't have any ward coverage on that right-hand side, except for by the blue buff. If Cringe Crew had made the choice, they could have tried to rush down fire.
Yeah, at the same time, Team Dignitas are pretty confident in the fact that they'll get this objective, and they will. Repi shows up, tosses an ultimate, and runs away. Ducky, however, looks for a slow on EmilZy, and will pretty much just zone him out. FrostiaK,
Nice
however.
Perfectly timed blink there from Repikas, immuning the damage and the stun from the Thor ultimate, gets him out of danger. But that means the blink and ultimate are both down for Repikas for the next 100+ seconds. The ult will be up before then because of the cooldown from both Hydra's Lament and Jotun's Wrath. But that blink does hurt the engage for Cringe Crew. You're really relying on through space and time and the plucks from EmilZy until that blink is back up.
Right, so got to be a little bit careful here for Cringe Crew. And if I'm Team Dignitas, I'm definitely screaming about the blink usage. And I'm looking to really make a push here because a big part of what Cringe Crew has been able to do or deter Dignitas from doing is as soon as Dignitas start things, you're going to see the blink Repikas on the backside. With that blink down, it's not going to happen.
Exactly, and they really need to be careful about that because they need that blink Fear No Evil to keep Deathiance alive at this point. I mean, sitting at level 18, we saw how quickly he got burned underneath that tier 1 tower. Transcendence not paying off for him quite yet. He's got the damage numbers, and they aren't where you want him to be. I mean, he's sitting at 3,200 damage, just above his own support, despite the offensive item build coming out of the solo lane Chaac.
There's a nice talk coming out from the Dignitas duo lane. Half HP on the Shaggyshenk already, and Suntouch looking more towards the tower than anything else. There, quickly, it's going to go down, but there's a rotation out of the mid laner. Kero showing up, along with everybody else. Here's 4 players as well for Team Dignitas. And it's just going to be a group up, though. Not too much of a team fight. Deathiance being pushed out by Ducky.
Ducky just making Deathiance's life difficult, making sure he doesn't get over to the solo lane or duo lane before he does. Taunt on the Shaggyshenk. Purification has just come up, and now BigManTingz in a tough spot.
And here comes the rotation, and Shaggyshenk able to just shut down BigManTingz very easily, honestly.
That purification from Shaggyshenk just came back up. So I think when BigManTingz went in there, he wasn't expecting the purification to come out. So then Shaggyshenk's able to turn it around, do the damage that he wasn't expecting, and just unfortunate timing there. Great portal, puts EmilZy in a good spot to initiate this fight for Cringe Crew.
And it's a wonderful pluck as well. ShadowNightmare stuck in a bad spot, able to wiggle his way right on through. Walking into the ultimate is EmilZy, and Shaggyshenk takes down ShadowNightmare as Suntouch in tandem takes down the other player. It's going to be 1 dead, EmilZy, and 3 dead on Team Dignitas. It's FrostiaK, Shadow, and BigManTingz. Ducky jumps forward, looking for a kill of his own, gets it! And there's the call from Deathiance to go onto the tower, but it just doesn't seem to work out.
Beautiful bait there from Suntouch. He knew Ducky was coming around the corner, but Shaggyshenk did not. Lord of the Afterlife over the top, and then the perfectly timed Sanctuary keeps him alive from that ult from Deathiance. There, FrostiaK gets killed by Repikas in the middle of nowhere. I mean, those 2 junglers were nowhere near the rest of the fight. Repi gets the better of the jungler from Dignitas, and now Cringe Crew, this game is basically even right now. I mean, you see the lead is 87 gold.
Ugh.
87 gold.
Ugh. It's 51, actually.
Man, this game's over, guys. Let's just call it a day.
It's a ward.
This gold lead is too much, man.
It's like a handful of wards, right? So right now, Dignitas do a great job, honestly, of just waiting it out and able to answer back. Cringe Crew have made a number of strong plays. But Team Dignitas looking to turn this one around come the late game. We're 25 minutes in, so it's certainly where Dignitas are going to look for ShadowNightmare to really hit his stride. And Duck is going to get bounced around, but this is, like I said, where Dig want to make their move.
That's the big question mark for me, is how well can ShadowNightmare and Suntouch really make their impact that they've been drafted to make here at 25 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, Kero, the ultimates have been there to move his team around the map. The damage not quite as high as the mid laner for Dignitas, but you know that Janus is going to be useful basically if he's doing damage or not. Whereas it's Kukulkan's job to do damage. That's what he's there for. Also to do some zone control, make sure your objectives are a little bit easier to take. But overall, that's his job there. Dash actually caught EmilZy, forced to use the ultimate right away. Perfectly timed taunt from BigManTingz. Catches the charge prey out of the support.
Love the portal out of Kero. That's just one of the options that Janus gives you. That's a dead EmilZy in any other composition, so very strong play coming out from Kero.
That's what Janus is there for. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Those plays like that don't show up on the player damage charts. They just
Exactly.
They never show up anywhere in the stat line unless you're watching and you know that EmilZy should have 3 deaths instead of 2 at this point. Rod of Tahuti is finished now for ShadowNightmare, has fully stacked that Warlock Sash as well, so that ultimate going to be doing even more than it was previously.
Ratatouille usually bought 5th or 6th item. Why do you think we see it so early?
Because this is ShadowNightmare. This is the sort of style that ShadowNightmare likes to do. He sells his starter item very, very early. He sells his whatever he buys along with his starter item. It's almost always Tiny Trinket.
Yeah.
He sells that really early, and then he sells his starter item just a little bit after that. ShadowNightmare likes to try and rush this big damage item, but Rod of Tahuti gets most of its effect from amplifying your already present magical power, and it's not going to be quite as potent when you build it 4th item.
At the same time, it does make your 5th and 6th item a little bit more impactful. Fire Giant lightly started by Team Dignitas, but they're looking more for the fight. Usually you see teams do this when they have the lead, but tie game here, so Team Dignitas just feeling saucy about how strong they are.
And it's because of the area denial they have with this Kukulkan. They know that Cringe Crew can't walk in towards the Fire Giant without using that Janus ultimate, and you saw Kero have to use it there. Now, this fight is going to be a little bit easier for Dignitas to chase down Cringe Crew if it starts to go well, or run away if it doesn't.
Ducky leading the charge. Dignitas now looking for the fight. There's a nice wall. Well, a nice stun, but unfortunately the wall on the wrong side that Team Dignitas were really looking for.
A nice wall for EmilZy. Gets blocked off from the rest of Dignitas. Shout outs to FrostiaK for helping out the enemy support.
And right now, Cringe Crew, they're looking for the momentum right now. The aggressive positioning coming out from the red team. Cringe Crew's support in trouble now. EmilZy gets taken down to about half HP, but Dougie looking to be taken down completely. Deathiance gets knocked up thanks to the ultimate, and FrostiaK able to make the first impact in this fight. Shaggyshenk gets chunked out, 10% on the Hunter. Suntouch looking to make it 0. How long will the Sanctuary last? And it's long enough.
Deathiance trying to find Suntouch, mistimed the torrent, wasn't able to pick him up. Through space and time is back up, however. Kero picks up Suntouch finally. Deathiance getting very low on this right-hand side, but is this tanky Chaac. Great juke with the torrent, but Ducky read it all the way. He wasn't worried about it.
Talk about how the kills versus impactful kills. Deathiance and EmilZy going down is pretty bad, but taking out Suntouch at this point in time is gigantic. Right now, if it's just Suntouch and Deathiance and EmilZy, I almost say this one goes the way of Cringe Crew, despite the fact that they lose more players. But with Repikas joining the ranks of the dead, I think that in turn makes it Dignitas' favor.
Shaggyshenk gets baited yet again, and Ducky cleans him up yet again.
The Duck isn't just coming, he's here! Ducky
is
playing outlandishly today. 6-2-4 on this Osiris, looking very strong.
He's making plays. He's been the one that's keeping Dignitas in these fights.
In both games.
Exactly. He's picking up late. He's coming in and cleaning up like you want your solo laner to do, and he's just being the annoying, tanky frontliner that's so difficult to deal with, especially without the big burst mage damage that you usually have in your mid lane.
So Suntouch just now making his way out of the base. He's about the tier 1 tower in the mid lane. Fire Giant started, half HP. Cringe Crew gonna come on in. FrostiaK used the ultimate, but he's off the mark. Deathiance, his ultimate hits 3, but it's all about the spacing more than anything else. He's running away. EmilZy wants to stay around.
Dignitas is looking to fight because you see that no
Nice
Wrath for BigManTingz, but EmilZy has his available, so they know they don't want to do the Fire Giant right now unless they're going to be using Spear of the Nine Winds to secure it.
And now that Suntouch is here, now they can actually pull the trigger. EmilZy's here, going to use the ultimate as well. Fire Giant goes the way of Team Dignitas as they had planned. There's Repikas, however, looking for the big play. Drops down the totem, and it's not enough to find a kill. Suntouch, however, looking for one. Shaggyshenk is the one that finds it onto the support.
And the rest of Dignitas totally content with running away with the Fire Giant around their waist, just getting it on 4 members, and the 4 most important members there. No real big deal that BigManTingz doesn't get it, or isn't going to have it available for this next push. The only thing that really it does for him is give him that regen. He's not as worried about the poke damage that would be coming out of Cringe Crew, but overall, to trade out your support for 4 members with Fire Giant at 31 minutes into the game is a good call there from Dignitas.
Absolutely, just intelligent gameplay coming out from Team Dig. It's a tie game right now. Cringe Crew able to take away that Gold Fury, and that'll even the things as far as the gold is concerned. In fact, inch Cringe Crew into about 1,000 gold lead, but Dignitas doesn't really care.
No, we're getting to the point where gold lead doesn't really matter whatsoever.
It does for a little bit.
We're not quite there yet. We still don't see 5 items completed on most characters. 6 completed, though, for Shaggyshenk, which is the character you want all your items done on early on. The 6th item there completed for Repikas as well. See ShadowNightmare going for what's going to be a Chronos Pendant, I'd imagine. No reason to get Doom Orb this late into the game. Putting some good poke out onto Shaggyshenk and Deathiance there.
And here's Suntouch able to take down the tower as well. Good damage coming out from the Hunter.
And it looks like Dignitas is going to play this slow. They're not going to look to force it here with the Fire Giant. Going to spend a little bit of that gold. You can see that ShadowNightmare almost has that Chronos Pendant completed. And items being completed all around here for Dignitas, actually, and that's why you see them back. You see the Mantle of Discord being picked up by Ducky. Very, very important to allow him to continue to frontline the way he wants to.
And that's the game plan so far. Not only does he have that passive, when it's all stacked and well and good, he's up to 16% damage reduction, so he's going to look really hot there, but also the protections as well abound and across the board. And I love the Frostbound Hammer. It just makes him even more obnoxious, which is the entire goal of this Osiris selection.
Tanky, gives you health, it gives you slows on your auto attacks. You've already got the slow on your 1. You speed yourself up with the 2, so it feels like you're slowing with the 2 as well. Very, very difficult for even mobile characters like Shaggyshenk, like Janus, to get away from this Osiris.
And what I love about his build coming out from Ducky, is specifically with the passive in mind, is that he's got a lot of utility, but he's also dumb tanky right there on the front side, just keeping everybody away. But Cringe Crew looking for the flank, and they're going to find it. EmilZy here, unwilling to go for the pull. 2
of your biggest ult used there if you're on Cringe Crew, and there was really no one else. Repikas has a big Fear No Evil, but it isn't enough. ShadowNightmare off the mark with the ultimate. Suntouch in the sky looking for the snipes. Finds it onto EmilZy, the first death of this fight.
BigManTingz, half HP. He's going to go back to base. He does have the ultimate available, so he'll be back in a jiffy. FrostiaK in some trouble. Shaggyshenk able to take him down. Suntouch gets the crit. We'll see you later, Shaggyshenk. Good night.
Now Deathiance on the run, taunted in by BigManTingz, nowhere to go. Ducky picks him up as well. Suntouch not worried about Shaggyshenk pushing forward, hits him in the mouth with 1 arrow and sends him to the base.
That's the absolute play right there. Oh, Sunny with the big man crit. Dignitas barreling down the right-hand side. That's 1,500 gold in the pockets with the tier 2 tower. Phoenix gonna suffer the same fate, undoubtedly.
And that was Shaggyshenk actually turning that around and making a big play onto FrostiaK, but just kept trying a little bit too much. And it looks like Dignitas actually looking to end. They can't
they're going for it
here.
They're going for it. It's 30 seconds on everybody. EmilZy just popped up. 2 players are available to play defense. Chaos Titan down half HP. Dignitas not guaranteed this one. Kero and EmilZy do have a lot of control. Will it matter? Kero gets a kill. EmilZy gets a kill, but the Chaos Titan falls down first. Dignitas taking it too. They're going to regionals.
Gauntlet winners, Dignitas. They're coming to Super Regionals at the end of this month. Congratulations to them coming out on top here. The top seed comes out of the Gauntlet.
Oh, wow. That team fight really got me amped up, man.
That Suntouch is standing tall and then just hits Shaggyshenk, man. 566 on the crit. Big plays, and that's what you want out of your late game hunter,
that's
right? That's what you want.
You absolutely need it. We talked about the composition being built around the ShadowNightmare and the Suntouch late game prowess, and that's exactly what came from it. As we said, Team Dignitas heading out to our next LAN. That'll be Super Regionals. Burrito loses to Cyclone GG. Cyclone loses to Elevate. Elevate loses to Cringe Crew. Cringe Crew loses to Dignitas. All ducks lined up in a row.
That's that, you know, it's just seeds. That's how the seeding played out, and it played out just like that. Unfortunate for Cringe Crew having to use a sub there in game 2, as well as losing zeros there for a while in game 1. But Dignitas overall looking very strong. Came out with a game plan and used it very, very effectively. Looking at the player damage charts towards the end of that last game, it was ShadowNightmare starting to surpass Ducky, and that's exactly how it's supposed to go. That's how you draw it up, man. You give it to, you know, it starts off with your Osiris. He does all the damage. And then the mid to late game comes and your Kukulkan does all the damage. And then your Hunter makes a big play in the last team fight. That is Smite to a T, how you want to play it with that sort of composition.
It's just to borrow a term from card games, it's well curved, right? You're at a position where you have the tools for the early game, you have the tools for the mid game, and you have the tools for the late game. A lot of times these compositions, you'll see players or teams rather sort of tread water until their late game carries can come online, or you know, they have an early game composition and 20 minutes hits and Thanatos is useless, right? Wink, wink, right? That's where it comes down to it. Dignitas say absolutely not. There's no need to really lean on these situations and spots where you're not as strong, and they create a composition in 2 separate games that allow themselves to really curve out their composition very well. I loved the approach, and Ducky and Suntouch, huge application.
And 2 guys who weren't here at the beginning, at least in their initial spots. I mean, Ducky new to the SPL rather in general. Suntouch new to the Hunter role. Both coming up big here to secure Dignitas' spot at Super Regionals.
Yeah, Dignitas wind up going to Super Regionals, as we said. Looking very strong. I expect them to do relatively well at the Super Regionals. And where exactly will they fit in? Well, it's right there. They're going to be involved in group play. We'll see the losers of the semifinals wind up in this group play, along with tomorrow's victor in the North American Gauntlet.
It's going to be really tough in this group play. You're only playing each other once in that group, and then you get the 2 wild cards out of that group play. So it's the 2 winners from their semifinals matches, then the 2 wild cards coming out of there as well. So it's going to be really, really exciting. Really can't wait to see who's coming out of the North American Gauntlet tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We have 5 separate teams showing up tomorrow, and we'll just see how that one works out. It's going to be a lot of fun. But Europe was fun to watch. You got a highlight of today's gauntlet?
Yeah, it was Suntouch standing tall and hitting Shaggyshenk in the face for 566.
I got so excited.
He jumped out of the chair. It was awesome.
I got so amped up. I love moments like that. And when it comes down to it, like crits aren't player skill, but just Sunny understanding that he was 1 shot away from death, and just being able to understand that, like, look, if I try to run away, I'm probably going to die anyway. If Suntouch runs away, the game goes in a different direction. But because of that 1 shot, if that play doesn't happen, if that 1 shot doesn't happen, if that 1 crit doesn't, then they don't win the game right there. Maybe they win it later, but that play is enabled. The finishing shot is enabled because Suntouch sticks to his ground. And, I think that's a nice microcosm for Suntouch's career. He's greeted by a lot of adversity. At the end of the day, Sunny just stands strong and makes the plays happen and sticks to it. So fantastic stuff coming out from Suntouch. The rest of the crew, Dignitas will continue on and be one of the more dominant teams. We have a sale of something. Like we said, 25% off of your class chests available.
Yeah, not only that, but we've got the hi-rez expo coming up. I mean, that's what we're doing here for Super Regionals. That's what everyone's playing for, and you can use the it's also 25% off, Tom. You weren't wrong there. Gauntlet is the word to use. Use that code word to get 25% off your tickets for hi-rez expo. Come listen to me make sound effects and all that kind of stuff.
Also, you can use a different keyword if you want. Good doggo also saves you 25%.
Are you serious? That's the code you got?
Yeah, good doggo. I'm 100% serious.
Unbelievable. Use Gauntlet, please.
Help me out. Use good doggo. Either way, that's going to be it for us today. We've had a ton of fun. I hope you guys have as well. Feel free to follow us at esports.smitegame.com for all the follow-up info. Follow us at Smite Pro and, of course, our Twitters as well. I'm Tom. That's Ryan. Zyden's in the back along with everybody else. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. right here on hi-rez TV.